that's a whole different reason for concern, because that won't go away if the economy changes. And
okay.
So that's an example of something that keeps me awake at night, because I know our students do disclose to us much of their financial situation, because we provide financial aid to some of our students, and I'm staggered by the student loans that many of them are coming to graduate school with, and oftentimes you've got a married couple, and the combined student debt they have, can be $250,000 or something like that. And now they're coming into grad school. So if that is causing a retreat from graduate school, then now that's a different and much more disturbing problem.
Got it. I was going to comment that, in the online program, I would have guessed that, like you said, these people are all, generally speaking, employed. And so, the economic concern about, an undergrad having loans and coming straight into an MBA program might be much more severe, much more of an issue in the resident, the on-campus program than on the online program. But you're saying this problem also exists on the online side?
Yeah, I think what you see is, so someone's 28 years old, and they've been working their butt off to pay down their undergraduate loans, and now they're going to take on $125,000 of debt to start graduate school. And it's sort of like, no, if I ever pay down what I'm paying down, I'm never going back in that kind of debt again. So again, this is not, I don't think this is a huge deal. There are people who are writing about this as a problem, and that's the kind of structural issue that if that causes a 10% erosion in my market, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. Okay. All right. But for right now, you think it's probably mostly cyclical factors.
That's right.
And that's and maybe some impact of your price increase, and that's really it.
That's right. So I'm not in a panic or a crisis or anything, but being neurotic is part of being in a leadership role. So.
Okay. Great. The other thing that's a lot has changed in online graduate programs since you guys started, kind of pioneered this a long time ago. It sounds like 2U is a great partner. There's also, a lot of different sort of models for how you can bring these programs to market that I imagine you've looked at. So yeah, I guess I'm just curious. And, there are some criticisms out there if you read these news articles about, the revenue sharing model and, how much is fair and right and what have you. So just kind of curious how you think about, those different models that you see out there relative to UNC's amazing brand and quality of program. And is this, the right program for you still? Is it always going to be the right program for you? Yeah. How do you think about that?
Right. So I am sure that when we get closer to our contract expiring, we will do a complete, thorough search the planet for what's the next place we should go. We're not close enough for us to be doing that, but we're always sort of staying abreast of the changes going on. And you're right, a whole bunch of things have happened since we were going through this the first time around. I think if you want a kind of a full service model, I don't think there's anybody who's comparable to 2U, at least at this point.
Sure.
So then that takes you to somebody like Noodle, doing a fee for service type structure, and that clearly has some attractiveness. The thing that makes me a little leery about Noodle, and I know a lot of Noodle guys because it's kind of, most of them came from 2U.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've hired some of my own people away who are quite familiar with how our program works. right now is working, really long hours because
right.
this is a time for their career to really be flourishing.
Right. Okay.
At least, again, that's the story we're telling ourselves. I hope we're not just, drinking our own Kool-Aid.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Okay. All right. And those two things, look, that's just the economy and that's the cycle. And then the top of funnel shrinking on 2U side, that's also kind of the cycle.
Yes.
As far as they can see it.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Great. Super. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Is there anything else that, you're probably the person possibly who's been doing this stuff the longest. So any other major sort of trends or issues that you think is interesting that's worth us talking about?
Well, there's one thing that I'm, because I talk to people like you occasionally, and I've brought up with a couple of people of late that I think is a concern about 2U, is their ability to scale. So they have grown so rapidly, so quickly, and sort of the going from one person to 100 people, that's quite a challenge. Then 100 to 1,000 is a challenge. 1,000 to 5,000. Each one has different elements. And so I would say that since we've watched every one of those growth spans, if you were talking to some of my people who work in the program and ask them, what is the irritant that has arisen over recent years, they would probably say, well, it used to be I knew exactly who to call when an issue arose, and now if I call that person, they've been replaced and moved here or there or that sort of thing. So I think they're experiencing some scaling issues, which is not uncommon with a rapidly growing company. But I just point that out as I'm not sure they can grow as fast as they're growing, as well as they've grown to this point, without I don't know what
service
the word
issues.
is. Yeah, that's it. So, and it's not that it's bad by any means. It's just that it used to be like concierge type level, and now I think increasingly we have a little bit of a feeling of we're kind of a number, and they'll get to us as soon as they can. It used to be these people have mastered customer service. Service is the right word I think to think of there. So, but that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, and before, was it like they had a dedicated team of, I don't know how many people who worked with you, who were focused on your account, and I don't know, maybe one or two others, but really focused on you, and to that point you knew who to call. They were talking to you all the time, and that's just completely rotated, or they're structured differently now, and now it's one person on one issue or product within the organization working with 20 people,
Right. So they have the first, what you first described is what they have always had and still have. It's a question of if you call that person, can that person get through the system as effectively as they once could? So there's sort of a sense that it used to be if you called that person, they would say things like, oh, that's Mark's area. I'll call Mark, or you know Mark. We talked with Mark last month. Why don't you just give him a buzz, tell him what your issue is, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, Mark. Okay, sure, I'll call Mark, and then in like 15 minutes the problem's fixed. Now you call that person, and that person's sort of like, let me think about it. I'm not quite sure who's in charge, and then when they get back to you, it's not Mark. It's like someone you've never heard of before. You see what I mean? It's like, now it's this giant organization. I don't know who's in charge of what. Internally, they may have it all figured out, but externally, sitting where I sit, or really not too much. If I have a problem, I just go straight to Chip Paulsett or Andrew